All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Entryway's State of the Organization. It looks like there are a number of folks joining us right now from the waiting room, so I'm going to give it just a minute here as people start joining us. We're so glad that you all could take some time today to hear a little bit about Entryway's results from 2025 and looking ahead at this year. So it looks like we're just going to give it another 30 seconds or so. We still have a number of folks joining, so just bear with us here. Okay. Okay, great. Well, let's go ahead and get things kicked off. My name is Kristen Poteet. I'm the Senior Vice President of External Affairs for Entryway, and it is my pleasure to be here with you guys today and to introduce our President and CEO, David Williams. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to David, and we'll kick things off. David?
All right. Thank you, Kristen. All right. Good morning. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. We had over 260 people register for this call, which is fantastic. Um, a recording of today's presentation is going to be sent to everybody who registered. And so we want you to feel free to share that with anybody you think might have an interest in learning more about Entryway. So our goal today, as Kristen mentioned, is to provide a snapshot of our impact in 2025 and to share a little bit about where we're heading in 2026. We'll leave time for questions, which you can submit at any time through the Q&A or chat, and then Kristen will facilitate those questions at the end of this presentation. But before we get into the numbers, I want to start with one person because that's always where Entryway begins. And so I want to tell you about Kashandra. Kashandra joined Entryway after being referred by the Salvation Army. Like many of our individuals we serve, her journey had many, many challenges. She was experiencing homelessness. She was navigating a lot of instability and trying to move forward, but without really a clear pathway. However, what stood out immediately was her determination. Despite many setbacks, she kept at it, so that in September of 2024, she was hired into a leasing role with Greystar, a place where she continues to thrive today. But after joining Greystar, eager to advance her career, she applied for and was awarded a scholarship through the Apartment Association of Greater Orlando, which gave her the opportunity to complete her certified apartment manager training. And then in September of 2025, she officially graduated from Entryway's program. Now, get this, during this time, she has purchased her own car. She has signed up to be an Entryway monthly reoccurring donor, paying it forward to help others who need a hand up. And she also became our first Entryway alumni city advisory board member in the country to serve on our board in Central Florida. Now, is that impressive or what? Her story reflects what I like to call the power of one. Because at Entryway, we're really not in the business of short-term fixes. We're in the business of changing trajectories one life at a time. You know, the reality is that we live in a world where millions and billions and even trillions dominate our conversations, even when we talk about homelessness or housing or workforce challenges. And at Entryway, we intentionally start smaller. Uh, as you know, Entryway exists to permanently break the cycle of homelessness through career pathways in the multifamily housing industry. And this work benefits everyone involved. Individuals gain dignity and long-term self-sufficiency. Employers gain motivated, trained talent, and communities have a solution to address homelessness. That's the vision. And in 2025, we continue to see that vision come to life. So let's take a look at what we accomplished last year. In 2025, after completing our application and screening process, 454 individuals enrolled in the Entryway program. We continue to serve a diverse population. Approximately 60% of our participants were female, 40% male. Majority were people of color, 5% were veterans. One of the most important measures of success that we have is the LifeWorks Self-Sufficiency Matrix. So this nationally recognized tool assesses a person's ability to meet basic daily living needs without public assistance. This is across housing, employment, income, food, childcare, healthcare. So when Cassandra entered our program, she was in what is termed the vulnerable range. She was focused on living day to day. Now get this, within just 90 days of being in her new job, she moved into building capacity. She was working. She was housed. She was able to start planning instead of just reacting. And as you can see on the graph, this is what we see to be true for the majority of the participants in the Entryway program. So in total, in 2025, we achieved 115 participants hired and housed on site. But in addition to that 115 participants hired full-time within the multifamily industry, we had 37 individuals who were hired into temporary staffing roles. We had 40 individuals who were hired into other industries outside of multifamily. We had 19 who were hired within multifamily, but without housing, for a total of 211 individuals achieving employment. Now, in addition to those participants, we had 126 children and partners receiving housing, for a total of 241 individuals moving out of homelessness. This is 337 positive program outcomes for 2025. Now, as all of you know, training is foundational to our participant success. And last year, we had 356 participants complete online training through our Grace Hill platform. We had 304 participants complete instructor-led classroom training. We had nearly 6,657 courses that were completed across maintenance, leasing, grounds, housekeeping, fair housing, soft skills, and financial literacy. Many of you on this call have volunteered and supported our instructor-led training sessions, and we're incredibly grateful for your willingness to share your time and expertise. We're fortunate to work with many of the local apartment associations and multifamily companies to execute these successful trainings. Retention was a top priority in 2025, and it's going to remain so in 2026 because I believe this is a place where Entryway can really distinguish itself from other recruiting sources. 80% of the individuals Entryway placed in jobs and housing in 2025 were still employed after 6 months on the job. This was an increase from 74% in 2024 and significantly higher than the 50% industry turnover average. And then when we talk about tenure, our average tenure for Entryway participants is a little over 13 months. Again, these are metrics that we want to continue to improve over time. From an industry partner standpoint, we added 9 new multifamily companies, bringing us to 93 active industry partners interviewing and hiring through Entryway. And if you work for one of those companies, thank you for your support. We can't do it without you. You know, people often ask a reasonable question. If the multifamily industry has thousands of open jobs, why is placing people into jobs and housing so hard? Like, why don't all our Entryway participants achieve employment? And as I've thought about this, I think about the previous roles, previous leadership roles I've had at the Houston Food Bank, Habitat for Humanity, and the Make-A-Wish Foundation. And the truth is that there was never a shortage of individuals who were qualified for and were ready to receive our services. And the hurdles to participate in receiving food at the food bank or housing at Habitat or a wish with the Make-A-Wish Foundation, I mean, they were minimal or non-existent. At Entryway, the population we serve faces significant barriers to both employment and housing. Think about this. Participants must pass a background check, pass drug testing, pass a credit check. They've got to complete our training. There might be certifications that they have to pursue. They have to demonstrate that they are ready for full-time employment. Oh, and by the way, they're doing all this while either living in a shelter, a car, temporary housing with unreliable transportation or childcare. And at the same time, they've got to align with industry partners who have the right jobs at the right time with a commitment to second chances. Now, that alignment, we all know, is powerful when it happens, but it can be difficult to achieve consistently, and it requires time and trust and resources. I think it's very much like a three-legged stool, with those three legs being Entryway, the participant, and the industry. All three legs have to be aligned for this mission to work. And if any one of them isn't, then the outcomes we all want aren't going to occur. So as we all know, missions can't be fulfilled without resources, both human and financial. So in 2025, Entryway raised over $4.3 million in revenue through individual giving, corporate support, special events, grants, and in-kind goods and services. Every dollar you see reflected here represents someone who believed not just in the mission, but in individuals like Cassandra. Special events, corporate sponsorships, grants, individual giving remain critical, both for revenue, but also for visibility. Get this, top golf events last year alone generated over $1 million. So we're deeply grateful to our platinum sponsors, Court Furniture, the DRK Foundation, Huntington Bank, Journal Capital, One App, Avanti, and Walker & Dunlop. Along with our gold and silver sponsors, you can see here on the next couple slides. You know, there are also creative ways to support our mission by lowering our program costs and provide direct support to our participants with our in-kind partners, such as furniture and houseware items from Court Furniture, career wear from Benson, background screenings by Inhabit, toolkits for our maintenance candidates from Ferguson and Chadwell Supply, and industry data software by our friends at ALN. These resources allow us to leverage and maximize all financial support and our ability to provide a holistic solution to those we serve. Now, in 2025, with expenses of $3.5 million, the total economic impact on our communities was $20 million. That is a 7-to-1 social return on investment. Each hired participant, when housing is included, results in $95,560 in economic impact. What does that mean? It's through their wages, it's through the taxes paid, it's through public benefits and community resources that are no longer needed, and dollars that are spent locally. It's pretty impressive, I think. Looking to brand awareness. While financial strength allows us to deliver the work, visibility allows us to scale it. In 2025, we continued to build the awareness of Entryway, both locally and nationally. And when more people understand what Entryway does, we see more referrals, more hiring partners, stronger city advisory boards, and broader philanthropic support. Last year, Entryway was invited to share our work on several national stages. We presented at Ferguson's National Client Event, National Apartment Association's Apartmentalize Annual Conference, a Freddie Mac National Conference, Ballard Spahr's Housing Summit, just to name a few. But they were opportunities to put our mission forward in front of industry leaders across the country. We were also featured on multiple industry podcasts. That really allowed us to tell the Entryway story in a more personal and accessible way. And we also invested in producing high quality videos and participant success stories that have been widely distributed across markets and platforms, helping people see not just what we do, but why it works. All this visibility matters because it helps normalize the idea that individuals experiencing homelessness can succeed in this industry when given the right opportunity and support. So thank you to all of you on this call who continue to champion Entryway. You do this by opening doors, extending invitations, sharing our story, providing opportunities to amplify our mission. In June of 2025, we launched our newest market in Columbus, Ohio, with our executive director, Jason Gray, and really an incredible city advisory board of industry professionals leading the way. Very excited about Columbus. But throughout the year last year, we welcomed, get this, a total of 77 new city advisory board members. You've heard me say that city advisory boards are our secret sauce, and I think they really are. At the national level, we were honored to add John Seabury, Mike Miner, Sarah Sheen, and Mary Jo George to our national board of directors. So I just want to say thank you to everybody who raised their hand to be in these important leadership positions. Now, at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Kristen to recognize individuals and companies who made some pretty extraordinary contributions in 2025.
Thank you, David, so much. It's my pleasure to present our national awards to recognize those going above and beyond for Entryway throughout the country. And our first award is the National Industry Partner of the Year, which goes to a company that has hired 3 or more participants, provides helpful and constructive feedback on interviews, and is a willing referral to other partners, embodying the spirit of Entryway's mission. For the second year in a row, this award goes to Greystar. In 2025, Greystar hired and housed more Entryway participants than any other partner in the country. Additionally, Greystar executives serve on 7 of our local boards, and from a philanthropic standpoint, provided $70,000 in financial support in 2025. Thank you, Greystar. Our Philanthropy Partner of the Year award recognizes a partner that demonstrates exceptional commitment through generous financial support, active employee engagement, and leadership in advancing Entryway's mission. This year, we're proud to name Walker & Dunlop our Philanthropy Partner of the Year. In 2025 alone, Walker & Dunlop raised $200,000 for Entryway through their annual employee giving campaign, supported with a company match, and sponsorship of local events. They served as presenting sponsors for fundraisers in both North Texas and Central Texas. And we are grateful for their leadership at every level, with multiple employees serving on local boards. And Susan Weber provides leadership on our national board. Together, Walker & Dunlop's partnership reflects a deep, sustained commitment to strengthening local communities. The next award is our Ambassador of the Year. This is given to an individual that goes all in promoting Entryway's mission and impact. And this year's Ambassador of the Year is former NMHC President Doug Bibby, who serves on Entryway National Board, and he chairs our partnership committee. Doug has spoken on behalf of Entryway at numerous events. He is responsible for recruiting and connecting Entryway to local board members, national board members, and industry partners. All of this has helped Entryway positioned for future growth and success. Thank you, Doug. And our final award is the Legacy Impact Award. This recognizes a partner whose sustained commitment has fundamentally shaped Entryway's ability to help individuals and families. This year's Legacy Impact Award goes to Court. Since formalizing our partnership in 2017, Court has now donated more than $1 million in furniture and housewares, transforming empty apartments into dignified homes for Entryway families across the country. Beyond their in-kind support, Court's commitment shows up through leadership, with 5 core employees now serving on Entryway's local boards, helping to strengthen our work in communities nationwide. Their partnership really exemplifies what lasting mission-aligned impact looks like. Thank you, Court. Now, some of our local markets have also chosen to recognize individuals and companies who made a significant contribution to their efforts with local awards. Thank you and congratulations to all of our award winners. Back to
Awesome.
you, David.
Thank you, Kristen. All right. Now I'd like to spend our last few minutes together sharing just a few of our goals for 2026. We are forecasting that 172 individuals will be hired into careers and placed in apartments within the multifamily sector next year. If we accomplish this, this will be a 50% increase over 2025. We will continue to have a retention goal of 80% of our participants graduating from our program. And we anticipate adding 35 local city advisory board members and up to 5 national board members in this next year. Some of you have heard me say that while the multifamily industry is a $3 trillion industry, it's also a very small one. And most of our board members have come to us through personal introductions. So if you or someone you know have an interest in serving on one of our boards, please reach out to me. Again, our cabs are our secret sauce. I mean, they make this organization go. I'm excited to announce that for the first time ever, we're going to be adding a national development director to focus 100% of their time on raising money through national corporate sponsorships, major gifts, and a national special event. We made great strides in fundraising in 2025 and hope to continue that in 2026. And so having all markets being self-sustaining financially is something that will be attained in 2026. And we anticipate in a few markets actually being in a position to be able to add a part-time or full-time program person. Now, this is a big deal because it will no doubt increase our capacity to be able to serve more people and to get more people into jobs and into apartments. But I think it's also going to enhance the quality of our program by improving our retention rates of those we place. Starting in 2026, Entryway participants in need of additional lease support can receive it through one app Greenlight, helping property managers feel confident approving our participants so we can move faster, expand housing options, and really just scale our impact. Now, this is an extension of an already existing one app partnership, which last year generated nearly $100,000 for Entryway. And finally, we're going to continue to promote our work. I believe it's possible to create a movement by showing the world that homelessness is a problem which can be solved, one person at a time. And so I want to close with a few thank yous and then open it up for questions. Number one, I want to thank our staff. This is a small but mighty team, and their commitment to this mission and the people we serve, I think, is extraordinary. As I mentioned earlier, the barriers for those we work with are often many and they're complex. This is really hard work, and I'm very proud to work alongside this team of dedicated professionals. To our board members, our donors, our industry partners, our mentors, our job coaches, and volunteers, thank you. None of this happens without you. So thank you for your investment of time and your resources. And for those of you who are joining us for the first time, I hope you'll take the next step. We would be honored to involve you in this work. And to all of you, thank you for enabling Entryway to work with people like Kishandra. She's a shining example of the power of one. There's already a ripple effect of her involvement with Entryway to her family, to her employer, to Entryway through her involvement on our city advisory board and her philanthropic support. And I think that's how we're going to help solve this problem of homelessness, one life at a time. So with that, we're happy to take your questions. Kristen.
Okay, great. So we actually already have a couple questions that have come in. If you do have a question, you can either submit it in the chat and we'll see see and get to as many as we can, or you can put it in the Q&A section. One of the questions is, what is the biggest challenge to growth slash more participants? Is it the qualification process, buy-in from industry partners, or the need for more entryway members assisting in training and selections? Or maybe it's all of the above.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's a little bit of all the above, but I think it really does start with identifying the right talent. As I mentioned, there are a lot of challenge that these individuals have. They're in a vulnerable place, and yet, and what I always think, while we are a charity, our work, we don't ask companies to work with us, you know, because it's a charitable thing to do. We ask them to work with us because we believe we have great individuals who just need a second chance. And they are bringing something to the table, and it's a smart move for these companies. We have individuals who have been in their jobs for years now. They've received raises, they've gotten promoted. The number of open positions in the industry is extensive, and so if we do our job right, we're helping solve an important problem for the industry. So I think identifying those individuals, we're now getting to the point where, Kristen has never liked it when I've said we've been a best kept secret, but we have been a best kept secret for a while, but that's changing. And so now there's an embrace by the industry, which is great. We can always use more partners for sure. We can always use more financial resources, no doubt. Um, but I think our biggest challenge right now is identifying those individuals who are ready to take on this kind of challenge.
Okay, great. So we got a lot of questions coming in here.
I don't know. Give shorter answers.
Here's one. It takes time to establish partnerships in new markets. Can you share some of the key learnings from the longer term, more mature markets?
Yeah. So I think one of the lessons and we really learned this in Columbus, was I think when we started most of our markets up until Columbus, we really started, I would say, undercapitalized. And the reason that that was important was, or a challenge, is because our executive director and the board, I think, had to be overly concerned about fundraising. Is fundraising important? Obviously, yes. It's always going to be a priority. But in Columbus, to their credit, and this was not my idea, this was their idea, they kind of overcapitalized. They have enough capital to kind of run the market for a couple of years. And what that's allowed them to do, I think, is to just have a much more balanced approach to establish those relationships, establish a training program, the relationships, all those kind of things. Again, fundraising is still a priority, but to be able to do those other items, which I think ultimately are going to determine long-term success for the market. So I think that's maybe one of the lessons we've learned. And then maybe the other one is just, it takes time. You think, I'm still amazed at, we'll establish a partnership, but then it's kind of like a year or two later, it's like we're establishing it all over again because people change and they didn't quite get what we did, or maybe we didn't communicate it as well enough. So relationships take time, partnerships take time, and but the good news is that this model works, and ultimately, I think people will see that and want to join in.
Great. So this question is a little bit more on the participant side. What types of background history could make someone ineligible for the program?
Yeah, so some of the biggest ones, certainly background is a challenge. If someone has a felony, especially around anything involving violence, children, uh, anything around theft, that a lot of times that's a bright red line that we're probably not the right fit for those individuals. So I think that's certainly kind of where it starts. Um, Credit has been a challenge. We now have some tools. I mentioned the One App partnership, but we have some other organizations that work on things like that. I think sometimes something as simple as a driver's license, or um, just these transportation, childcare. barriers that are really challenging. That is our that we try to overcome.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the barriers aren't necessarily what makes them ineligible. We just need to work with them and provide resources to
Exactly.
support them. And I think we have a number of industry partners, just speaking from the hiring side, that some partners may have stricter requirements than others when it comes to any kind of criminal background. And so that's one of the reasons we do work to get that information up front with our participants so that we can understand their situation. Maybe we can advocate for them if the situation calls for it, if they're depending on what the circumstance was, and try to match them with a partner that would support depending on what that history looks like. So we try to get that information from our partners up front when we're establishing the partnership, as well as getting the information from the applicants themselves to make sure that we don't want to present anyone forward to an employer where we already know it's just there's no way that they're gonna be hired.
That's right.
Um, Another question was around on the participant side, what is the number one way of finding new applicants? Or is there?
Yeah, so that's where our referral partner network is so important, and it really comes down to there are two broad kind of categories. The one would be the social service category, where programs like Goodwill and Salvation Army and Family Promise and just a whole host of local nonprofits are serving this population, and just about all of them will have some type of workforce development component to their work, but ultimately they want to be able to transition someone to be self-sustaining. And that's where we can complement programs like that. And so I would say that's number one. Number two, we also work within the educational community where we have partnerships with community colleges and technical schools. You talk to any instructor, they'll tell you they got two guys in their class that are living out of their cars. And they're in a HVAC or plumbing or electrical or carpentry program. And so establishing relationships with those community colleges and technical schools, whether they're for-profit, nonprofit, that's another source. And then the third one, and this is a little bit more recent, is that we've actually been a little bit more what I would say intentional about just going directly to individuals through different ways where we can make maybe a training that we're doing known to individuals. So somebody might see a posting for a maintenance training, week-long maintenance training and career fair that one of our markets is putting on. They can apply. In any of those cases, we have a pretty thorough application process. Again, it starts off with background screening, but then through our Grace Hill platform, there are a series of online courses that individuals have to take. And if they complete that, then we work on their interviewing skills and their resume and then start getting them in front of hiring managers. So those are the ways in which people come to our program.
Great. Next question is, where is volunteer support needed most in Entryway, and how can I get involved to help?
Hey, all right. That's awesome. So where the support is most needed, certainly, a lot of times this really depends on the market. So this is not going to just be a simple answer. Different markets have different needs. So in some markets, they have more mentors than they have people, and then in other cases, they're in need of mentors. Speaking of mentoring, a lot of mentoring is done virtually, not necessarily in person. So that's something, if that seems to be an area that you would be interested in exploring, we would love to talk to you about that. The job coaching is just a little bit different in terms of really focusing on their resume, their interviewing skills. Um, but that's certainly an area. And then I think on the fundraising side, we events are a very big part of our fundraising mix. Fundraising events are awesome, but they're really time consuming. We have one executive director in all these markets. And so I will tell you that some of our most successful fundraising events are because the volunteer component in terms of putting these things on, whether it's Top Golf or a pickleball tournament or a luncheon, the volunteer component is extraordinary. They're the ones that will recruit, the tables or the foursomes or the bays and really make it go. So I think those are some of the ways. Kristen, are there any others that come to mind?
I think those are most of them.
Okay.
She specifically just said she's in the Charleston area, so I'm going to get her connected with Daniel in our Charleston market there. Um, let's go to another question. We still have a little bit of time. Does Entryway have opportunity to partner with local government for resources? And if so, what do you think that could look like?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we have partnered with local government in Atlanta and in one other market that I'm just blanking. Oh, in the National Capital Region, we partnered with the district. So it's not been um, a big revenue source for us. This is really when Chris Finley set this up, he really set it up as a private sector initiative, something that the industry would in a sense own, and I think it does through the leadership and through funding. I mean, multifamily sector is just amazing in that way. Having said that, um, I think we all know there's a lot of government funding that goes towards homelessness. It typically goes uh, for housing. I would say it typically goes for a little bit more short-term um, solutions, and so I think we're a good fit for government funding. I, having worked in organizations that receive government funding in the past, I think you have to be careful. There are a lot of strings that are attached, but we have a lot of smart people that can help us navigate those. And I think if a local government wanted to come alongside us and support us, we would absolutely be open to support that. And again, we see it all the time. There's a lot of money that is being spent on homelessness services. So to me, to support an organization that's actually trying to solve the problem for a certain segment of the population, I think that's a smart investment.
Okay, great. And then there's a question here on what revenue streams are you most focused on growing in 2026 and looking for support? Major gifts, corporate partners, foundation.
Yeah, Kristen, do you want to take that one?
Sure. All of the above? No, I would say corporate partners and major gifts will definitely be a focus for us in 2026. We will look for opportunities from foundations, but those typically are going to be more at the local level. I think for the national office, we're still working on just growing and building our impact numbers for some of those national level foundation um, grants that aren't available for capacity building. And if it's capacity building, I think that's a great place for where we are. But I think we have a lot of great opportunities still with corporate sponsorships. I think our model resonates well with the industry, with private sector, and I think our goal with our national board and our partnership committee is to really look and see maybe where we can find some new inroads there with partners that really like what we're doing and can help us grow and stretch that further. Yeah, so those that's what I would say. Would you add anything else?
No, I think, well, the last thing is that we are considering putting on a national special event. As much as special events are huge throughout the country, they're really put on by our local markets. And it's something that we've kind of kicked around. Do we do something like that in Washington, D.C. or New York City? And so I think once we have this position in place, that we'll be able to support doing that. We're going to explore what that might look like, but that could be an exciting new venture.
Great. Okay, so I think we have time for one more.
Yeah.
So let me just look here. Um, we're talking a little bit here about entryway graduates. Are entryway graduates less likely to return to homeless status compared to other orgs? Um, how does Entryway's ability to transform lives compare to other organizations?
So that's a good question. I'm not sure what organizations we would, um, the questioner is wanting us to compare ourselves to. Um, but I guess this is what I would say is that if somebody graduates from our program, it means, they applied, they completed training, they interviewed, they got hired, they got housing, stable housing for at least a year. And so, I would just submit there's been a level of success, both from an employment standpoint and then just a housing stability standpoint, that that has to be a muscle that has been strengthened. And I would think that let's just take a worst case scenario that someone ends up losing their job, and they go that they have to figure out what comes next. Um, that they're in a much much better place than they were before, having accomplish what they have. And so, it's one of those things that I think we have to, our data after somebody graduates, a lot of times is very difficult um, to gather. And it's a goal of ours to try to stay in touch as much as we can, especially with people that graduate from our program. And understandably, they want to go on with their lives, and so sometimes it's a challenge to get that data, but the data is important. And so it's definitely a goal for us to continue to get better at data collection.
Yes, agree. Well, we are at time basically now. So just thank you everyone for attending and for your questions and comments. You will see on the screen, David and I both have our contact information. If we didn't get to your question today, or if you think of any other questions that you would like answered, please feel free to reach out to us directly. We'd be happy to talk with you. And I think that's it. We also will be sending the recording out as well. So if you know anyone else who would be interested, please feel free to share. David?
Awesome. Thank you. Just by virtue of the fact that you're on this call, you're very important to us. You're an ambassador for Entryway, and so continue doing what you're doing. And we are making progress, one life, one year at a time, and it's a great privilege to be part of this organization. So thank you, and have a great rest of your day.